Welcome to a new episode of Away and Abroad. Today, I'm joined by a good friend of a friend, Olivia. And when I put out a call for anyone who lived in like Alabama or any of the top 4 states of the alphabet, my good friend Annie connected us. And so I'm so excited to chat about Alabama and then also all things travel and budgeting and creativity.
We are hyped. We're hyped to be here. Yes.
Yay. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, let's just do a little overview of Alabama since that was sort of the catalyst of our chat today. I also lived there for like 9 months when I went to an all-girls school called Judson College, since closed down, but I call it my study abroad experience because it was quite a different culture.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what led you there and how long did you live there?
Such a good question. Okay, so my relationship with Alabama is long and storied, but the short version of it is I lived there for 4 years. Also, school led me there. I went to the University of Alabama. So very, very Southern, very Alabama, very much a culture shock for me, even
Mhm.
though my family is all deep South. So my parents are from Alabama, all my extended family are Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, but I had not really experienced it firsthand before. So that was really interesting going back there and experiencing firsthand all the secondhand culture that I had had after living in the Midwest and other places.
Awesome. Which I learned when I went there that Alabama State, seems to be the correct choice of school to go to.
Well, my parents went to Auburn. So this is a
Oh,
dicey question in the Deep South. I
it
mean,
is.
people have it on their car tags. Folks who have not lived in the South do not understand the depth of rivalry. But my parents always joke that they can be bought. Their rivalries can be bought because got a full ride. So
Yeah.
they
Okay.
were fine with it.
Okay. Good. That was probably the only allowance that they could accept that.
We're not football people anyway, which is
Okay.
hearsay in Alabama.
Good. Good. Yes. Okay. So, did you ever consider living in Alabama, or was it just sort of like, yep, this is for school and a chapter of my life?
Hmm, that's a good question. I mean, I had connections there. I do think where you go to school ends up influencing more than I realized when I was a mere 17, 18-year-old, how your job prospects will be. So I definitely considered it because when you're a young chicklet trying to find money in any way possible, you just kind of go where your connections are. So I did
Mhm.
consider it. I did consider living in Birmingham specifically, and I have a ton of friends there. So it's weird if you've lived many places. When we go back to visit, it feels like, oh, this is an alternate life we could have had that could still
Mhm.
be ours because we have a whole community there. And that's really the reason that if I moved, I would go back there. But
Yeah.
we
Okay.
didn't land there.
Yeah. And so, where do you live now for the
I live
audience?
in Austin, Texas.
Nice.
And yeah, me and my partner, we've lived here for, gosh, 7 years now. Super rooted, love it, great community. I always joke we're a short 20-minute drive away from Texas. Austin's different than the rest of Texas,
Mm-hmm.
but we love it.
Nice. Yeah. Do you think people kind of get things wrong about Austin or the South in general? Like, if you had a
Oh,
PSA about the South, like, what would you tell, like, the greater US, I guess?
you accidentally made this a spicy question because
Uh-oh.
no. I don't think Texas is the South. Having
Okay.
lived in the deep South, culturally, totally different from Texas,
Okay.
which is totally different from anywhere else I've been. And I'm going to get into that and then I promise I'll answer your question. I think it's actually the settlement patterns. It totally influences culture today. So when you think deep South, and what I mean when I say that, I mean Mississippi, Alabama, some of Tennessee, Georgia, those places, it was farm-led culture many,
Mm-hmm.
many moons ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so families would move, and having children was really important because they would work on your land. And so it's very family focused. And it's very, who are you related to? Oh, I knew your mama's aunt 20 years ago. That's what people talk about. In Texas, it's very rancher settled. At least it is
Mm.
where I live. Not now, but originally. And so it's got a much more independent, individualist mindset than the Deep South does. So I think those two things are different things. But what I would
Yes.
say about Alabama and what people misunderstand is there's good stuff happening there. I think
Yeah.
it's a cop out to look at a place like it's backwards. And sure, it's complicated. We could get into that. I have a complicated relationship with the Deep South, as I think everyone from the Deep South does. But there's really beautiful things happening there. There's good work, there's good creativity, there's beautiful, even just land. It's a very varied place. And I wish people realize
Hmm.
that Alabama has things to offer, and it's not just a project.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And I think people can really misunderstand it, mostly just politically. I think it really can come down to that. And
Yeah.
it's like yeah, forget about even gerrymandering alone is can be the fault of all of that, of all that misunderstanding.
Totally. But there's mess everywhere, right? It
Yes,
just matters
for
how we
sure.
see it. And in some places,
Yeah.
it's clearer than others. And I think it's easy to go in with a view of needing to educate people that aren't like us
Hmm.
rather than going in with genuine, disarming curiosity. Because you're
Totally.
never going to get anywhere if you go in with, here's why you're wrong, and I'm going to teach you. You
For
get
sure.
so much farther and you learn more yourself when you go in with a perspective of like, tell me a story of why you believe that way. Tell
Hmm.
me why that matters to you. That
Hmm.
is, in my mind, the way to move forward and to make beautiful things happen.
Yeah, agreed. So well said. And I will say, when I went to the school in Alabama, it's like in the Midwest. So I'm from Minnesota, and there's like the Midwest or Minnesota nice. And then there is Southern hospitality. Like
Hmm.
I was invited to a different friend's home every weekend and just experienced so much like caretaking in the fact that I was like not from there, and people really opened their doors to me. And I did feel like I had a lot of like family spread across the whole state. So yeah,
Yes,
that was
that's so
very
real.
special to experience.
Yeah, that's so real. And that was a little disarming to me because I grew up mostly in Kansas City, so also Midwestern like you, Autumn. And it
Mm-hmm.
is a different vibe. Kansas City folks are fantastic. I love them and very different from Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Deep South energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different expectation folks have for each other.
How long did you live in Kansas City? I know you moved abroad with your family, and yeah, do you have like a brief kind of timeline of like where you've been?
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, brief version. So my parents' culture is definitely Deep South. So that's weird for me because it kind of infuses into my personal culture, even though I didn't grow up in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Born in South Carolina, we moved to Kansas City for a little bit before we moved to Northern England, Yorkshire area from 5 to 10. Think Bronte country, moors, sheep, hedges, all that stuff. Beautiful. And then I had the culture shock of my little 10-year-old lifetime when we moved back to the Kansas City suburbs. And we stayed there then from
Wow.
the time I was 10 to when I graduated high school, which I really appreciate. My dad in particular had moved a lot as a kid and made it a priority to have me be planted in middle school and high school. And then after
That's cool.
that, moved to Alabama, lived there for four
Mm-hmm.
years for school and doing internships in the summer, and then moved back downtown Kansas City for a few months post college, looking at jobs there, and then moved to Austin and have been here since.
Okay. Wow. So I feel like since I lived in a couple other places as well, I have this sort of, I don't know what it's called, but like I just struggle with like, what if there's someone somewhere better, and not better, but maybe like every place offers something different? Is it hard for you to feel settled and feel like content? Or do you feel like since I have lived in so many places, I know what's good and I feel settled here?
Oh, interesting. No, I feel permanently unsettled. Oh,
Okay.
permanently, which constantly fights with my value for community because I'm very community oriented. Community being both the people you choose to live with and also the people just in proximity that you are
Hmm.
living with, whether you chose it or not, they're still your community. That's how I feel. Uh, so no, I feel like when you've lived a lot of places, for me at least, I can chameleon
Yeah.
and I get a little distance, which I actually think makes me uh, more curious than if I had just been in one place. and I don't mean that as a diss because I think it's beautiful when folks have a really rooted life in one place and they have things to offer me that I don't have because I'm always looking at it from a distance. I
Yeah.
always hold it a little far away, but it makes me almost look at it like like I'm doing an ethnography
Yeah.
study. I'm always wondering what drives these people, what makes this place feel different. And I think places rub off on us. So I think it's
Hmm.
actually really important when you're choosing where to live, if you have that kind of agency, or if not, just being aware of it. These are the values of this culture, and whether I like it or not, they're totally going to rub off on me. So, how can I do this in a way that still feels in alignment with who I am?
Yeah.
And how can I be a participant in this culture by rubbing off what I think? So, no, I
Yeah.
don't think I've had better or worse places. I think they've all fit in different seasons of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah, so well said. Such a great perspective because it can be easy to like totally write one off.
And I think it's almost a self-protective measure.
Hmm.
Because when we were in school, my husband and I, we both studied creative advertising.
Okay.
Almost everyone we went to school with moved to New York City right after. I
Sure.
love New York City. Don't
Yeah.
hear me wrong. I love it. And I would be psycho if I moved to New York City because I'm too intense achievement oriented anyway. So I actually need a place like Texas, like Alabama,
Mm.
like the Midwest to keep me grounded,
Yeah.
or I think I would probably have a hard time staying healthy.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's, yeah, excellent self awareness.
We're all trying our best.
Yes, for sure. Oh, that's awesome. Well, and since you are a traveler as well, does that help satisfy that need to feel like, I guess, settled in one place, knowing you can kind of go where anywhere you want at any time too?
I think so. I'm always most interested in people.
Hmm.
So, funnily, we, without meaning to, have created a pattern of actually traveling with people we love. So,
Oh,
either
wow.
going to visit people, seeing them in their natural habitat, so to speak, or traveling with friends and making plans together. One, it makes it cheaper, right? Because we don't have the
Yes.
same bank account as them. And two, it's just so fun to experience things with someone who isn't in your household because they see things always a little different. And I feel like it deepens my understanding of the new place that I'm visiting.
Love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Like traveling with your community too.
Yeah,
That's so
it's so
cool.
fun. It's so
Yeah. Well, and speaking of finances, do you have like a budget?
Yes, I have a spreadsheet.
Nice.
It's chronically unchill. It's got every possible thing on it. It's very pink because I feel like if I have to do an unfun thing, it might as well be cute. And it really frees me. Frankly, I've always been, and we in our household have always been pretty, I don't like attaching a value statement to it, but responsible, so to speak. We got married super young. And I think when you get together and you form a partnership when you're 20, you don't have any money. And so you,
Right.
you sort of form this muscle of having to be accountable to someone else, which in a good way, in a healthy way, and having to really be conscious of what you're buying when you don't have much margin. I think that's carried us through the decade almost we've been together now. But I got more into actual budgeting, honestly, in the past year and a half, because we tracked every dollar when we first got together, started making a little bit more money, and
Mhm.
felt like all is fine. Budget's all working out. Went through a job scare about a year and a half ago where I got worried that I was going to lose my income and started going back to that. And I feel like, oh, I wish I'd continued doing this for the past decade because it
Yeah.
gives so much freedom. I don't feel guilt when I spend now.
Yeah. The lifestyle creep can really take over
Yes.
sometimes.
The
Hmm.
lifestyle creep and also just the anxiety of not knowing. Because
Hmm.
to me, I'm inclined to actually think I'm doing worse than I am.
Sure.
So
Hmm.
now I don't feel guilt if I go get myself a fun little coffee on the weekend because I know, oh, it's in my fun money. I'm spending
Yeah.
it on things I value.
Hmm. Yeah. That's awesome. Is there anything that you don't spend money on because you travel, or is there any sort of like exchange that's kind of in line with your values in that way?
Oh, I love this question. Yes, I'm all into spending on values.
Hmm.
And for me, saving and frugality is not an end into itself. Like
Right.
that is not the goal. The goal is to be able to have the margin to spend on what I do care about and love.
Yeah.
we're here a short time, right? It's easy to go overboard. At least it
Totally.
is for me, but I'm intense.
Yes.
So I would say, yeah, whenever we're looking for either home items or clothes, barring a few items that are that take a punch, like tennis shoes, I'm always gonna buy those new. We
Yep.
try to buy secondhand first.
Mhm.
I also just think it's more responsible since we have what, 6 generations, 7 generations of clothes in thrift shops. I don't want to add more trash, I'm trying to do that.
Mhm.
A few other things. We have 2 cars. One of them is from 2006 and has been in the family a long time. And she is ugly, but she's a trooper. I did run her into the library parking deck one time, so she's crushed in on one side, but she's fine. I'm not upgrading her until she conks out on me.
Yeah, she's got character.
Yeah, we don't care about cars.
Hmm.
Try to get secondhand things that also just have more character.
Hmm.
And here's my spicy one. Are you ready?
Yes.
I love supporting local businesses. I don't buy fancy coffee beans, at least in this stage of my,
Oh, hot take.
it's a hot take, but I feel like I gotta prioritize. I buy a cheaper coffee. I try to still get fair trade when I can, but stuff
Yeah.
like that I do like, but I realize I don't really care that much.
Yeah.
I try to cut out when I can.
Yeah, no, that's so fair. And I think that's like, yeah, such an interesting difference because I do buy less coffee at the coffee shop, but I do buy the beans to
Yeah.
support the local coffee shop. So yeah,
It's knowing what you care about because what
yeah,
I'm hearing there is that you're really there for the coffee. You want to have a great experience and you can have that at home.
yeah,
For me, I'm really just there to get out of my house. I want a
right.
cute environment. I want to go read a book on a
Hmm.
couch. And even if I brought the beans at my house, that doesn't meet the goal the same way.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Anything else on budgeting that you feel like people should know more about?
I think for me, especially when traveling, I think it's really easy to either have a go as cheap as possible to maximize the places or a money doesn't matter when you're on vacation mindset.
Totally.
We've talked about this a lot in our community, and it's interesting when you travel with the different things people care about, not in a bad way. So, an example, we went to Hawaii with some friends. So fun, so awesome. We made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, which we packed in our suitcases, the peanut butter
Wow,
and the jelly, because Hawaii groceries are so expensive.
it's true. Yeah,
So
I've
we
heard that.
talked with our friends, and
Mhm.
they learned halfway through this is not satisfying what I want out of a trip because they're big foodies. So for them,
Totally.
they realized this is not it. I would
Hmm.
rather take money from somewhere else.
Yep.
And we felt like I don't care so long as I get a massage.
Yes, love it.
For me, the biggest thing that I'm learning on spending to make more money for travel is save as much as possible to maximize. And the goal is also not all rules off. It's what do you value and then how do you shift the other things around to make room for that.
Yep, totally. So well said. I love that comparison. It's like, no, I'll take my massage and my free PBJ. I
Yeah,
love
I
to
don't care.
pack
I
it
don't
like
care.
in the suitcase.
Yes.
That's great. I think I did that one time when I went to Savannah. It just was easier to like have my little breakfast at in the Airbnb and then like eat out. So
Yes. Talk
yeah.
about deep South culture. Savannah's gorgeous.
Yes, I loved it. I was very pleasantly surprised. And I was like, I love the Spanish moss. And then turns out it's like the most invasive thing ever.
Oh, I feel that way about kudzu. Talking deep south. I'm realizing as I'm saying it, I don't know the scientific reason.
That's
I
okay.
believe, and I'm sure your listeners are screaming at me, telling me the answer, but it's totally invasive,
Okay.
but it makes it look when you're driving through the deep south like there's swamp monsters on all sides of you because it totally takes over the trees and
Love.
forms this bed of green. I love
Hmm.
it. I think it's so romantic. It makes you feel like you're in a Southern Gothic. And it's totally invasive and very bad for the trees
Great. Yep.
everywhere.
You're like, but the vibe.
But the vibe is so good.
Okay, that reminds me of books. Are there any good books that you feel like really set the scene in the South?
Oh, I love. Okay, so I actually just read one that I love, but it's a little South adjacent. Appalachia is different from Deep South,
Okay.
but they are related in culture. I just read a book and it was called Strange Folk by Alli Dyer.
Okay.
It is magical. It's gorgeous. It's a story about family, magic, heartbreak, healing, and it has the most visceral sense of place of any book I've read recently. Very
Love that.
Appalachia, not quite Deep South, but maybe a good introduction if folks want to know how family takes precedence in these cultures. I think they share that.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Definitely adding to my Goodreads. Okay, so what would you define then as like deep South? Would you call it like territories or more of like the vibe and culture?
Oh, that's interesting.
Because for example, I bet there's elements of deep South in Florida, but it's like there's no way that I would think that Florida is deep South, but am I wrong about that?
0%.
Yeah.
Florida is the Australia of the United States. Trying to kill you. It's not Deep South. It's its own
No,
thing.
no,
We
no, no.
claim them.
Right. Yes, for sure.
I think it matters where you're from, how you would
Okay.
define Deep South, because some people would even argue like West Virginia is South. I would say no way, but I'm sure a West Virginian listening is screaming at me.
For sure.
Or Texas, no way. But some Texans feel like they are Southern at heart. I would say it is a very hard to define culture, and it's the feeling, it's the vibe, as you said.
Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a focus on a connection to place, like the physical land and
Yeah.
region that I have not felt in other places, at least in the US.
Hmm.
I think it's a focus on family, a focus on history. I've never lived anywhere that's so viscerally connected to history the way the South is. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually feel like it's a reverence for story. Story matters everywhere, but in the South, there's the joke that, like, in the South, you give crazy a cocktail and put it on your front porch, and it's just like your grandma. It's true, though. Like, they are so unique, the people and the character, in a way that feels different from anywhere else. So I would say it does end up breaking across state lines, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, the Carolinas, that region. But it's a shared set of values. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Wow. That's so cool. Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I can definitely see that like when I went to Alabama and yeah, it was very family oriented, where it felt like if anyone did want to like live in another state, it would just be so counterculture that it's
Oh,
like, how could you even think about doing that? You
my
know?
parents did this. My parents are the only ones who lived outside of the deep south of our complicated for me because, when you're a kid, here are your cousins. I've seen them once in 3 years. That's confusing, but um, actually such a gift to me and
Mhm.
so brave. I cannot even imagine being the first ones to leave like they were and to take their 5-year-old internationally. I mean, you just don't do that when you're from the deep south.
No,
But I
right.
really respect the curiosity and the bravery that that took. And
Hmm.
honestly, the freedom and autonomy it's given me because they have always told me, you go where the jobs are, you go where you can live the life you want. And I don't
Yeah.
feel like I inherited that boundary the way a lot of even my friends have.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting how it can be like having that deep rooted like sense of family and belonging can, I would think, can feel like a trap, but also really comforting. I have this generation full of like home and place.
It's
So,
belonging. This is my belief. Everybody just wants to feel seen and loved. And when
mhm.
you are in a culture that is so family centric, they probably drive you crazy because that's family. And you might feel like they don't see you, but I think overwhelmingly there is an element of feeling seen, at least by your family or your folks, and loved that is really beautiful in
Mhm.
the Deep South and really revered. Um, it does have its downsides. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
lie. So, folks that I am really good friends with who stayed in the Deep South, especially folks who are either not close with their parents or whose parents have passed or don't live there, have had a really hard time forming friendships, especially in their 20s,
Mhm.
because everybody on a Friday night, not everybody, but a lot of folks, they're spending time with family. Like they're
Yeah.
spending time with siblings there, which is beautiful. It's a gift. And if you don't have that, it is much harder to find an entry point because
Yeah.
everyone else already has a full social life. They already have belonging. And so
Mhm.
finding margin, folks want to be hospitable, but they have full plates a lot of times. It's
Right.
much easier to find community for me in a transient city because
Hmm.
folks want to meet people. I cannot say that is the same for me, at least in the Deep South.
Totally. Yeah. Which I can see Austin being, I know it's such a transient place to begin with.
So
So,
transient.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been weird being the folks who've been here long enough to be the people who get left. I have always been the person who leaves. it is so much harder to be the person who gets left. Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, that's pretty much like where I was at in New York as well, because a lot of people left after the pandemic.
Oh gosh,
And
I can imagine.
yeah, and even I left to go to Providence, Rhode Island for a little bit and then moved back because I just missed it so much and I felt like I was missing out and there was more for me to do in New York. But then over time, I just felt like either I had friends who were like settling down in the city with partners or like they had left back to their hometown and something I never even saw myself doing because I was like, no, I'm this person. I leave.
Yes.
But so it's been kind of an identity shift a little bit too, to be like, it's okay to like change your mind and like change who you thought you were too.
It's hard and it's kind of scary for someone who's moved a lot
Mm-hmm.
to be the stable one. And I freaked out when we bought our house that we are in, or the bank bought the house and we will slowly pay them back over 30 years, but that's a different
Right.
thing. Suddenly I went from being the person who, oh, I'm here for a season, I'll go, to thinking, unless something catastrophic happens with income, life change, desires can change. I don't really see myself leaving here. And it freaked me out.
Mm-hmm.
I got
Yeah.
over it.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's scary because it makes you vulnerable to admit that you love something.
Yeah. I love yeah, that's so well said. And it's like, yes, you can always sell the home and whatever, but it is kind of a tangible, like anchoring to a
Yeah.
place.
Oh no, I got that sweet, sweet 2020 interest rate. We are dying in this
Ooh.
house.
Okay, good.
We are making it
Good.
work, Autumn.
Paint the walls, do everything you want. Well, I wanted to chat a little bit about creativity as well, because I know you mentioned that you went to Scotland for a poetry retreat. I feel like with creative people as well, we kind of have many interests. So is that true for you?
It is. I would say there are specialist creatives and generalist creatives, and both are beautiful and needed in their own way. I'm definitely a generalist. I love tootling around. I have a hobby graveyard with creative pursuits that I will hyper focus on for 5 months, and then I'll be done, and it will go in the hobby graveyard, and it might be revisited, and it might not. My roots, though, are in writing, so
Okay.
even do that professionally as a started as a copywriter and now do creative direction. Writing definitely feels like the through line for me. But I think there's a difference between creating and producing. And I think
Mhm.
that that is especially hard for professional creatives, especially for corporate creatives like myself.
Mhm.
I'm producing all day long. If it doesn't have
Totally.
results, then it doesn't matter. Not in a soul sense, but in a I'm out of a job.
Right. Yes.
And so I find myself in my free time kind of being tapped out on sitting at a desk and writing. I find myself wanting more kinesthetic activities like crocheting or like building little miniatures or something that scratches the itch to just create and play rather than always have to be producing for results.
Yeah, that's great. I was going to ask if you've been able to like find a good balance of like keeping writing as something you still love while
Yeah.
it's still the moneymaker as well. So,
Yeah, I would say no to that.
okay.
Trying. I would love to hear if anyone has felt like they have found a good balance.
Mhm.
Because I think, gosh, balance is funny when we talk about it because I think it kind of implies that we are stable, consistent beings. Like, oh, if I just find balance, I've got it on lock and I'll do that for 40 years. But that's not true because we're always changing. So what might feel like balance in one season is totally out of whack in another.
Yeah.
So I would say I have not found that balance very well, but I'm
Mhm.
trying.
Mhm.
I think I would probably write way more if I
Mhm.
wasn't using my brain being strategic and conceptual 9 to 5 every day. And I
Right.
think that's a trade-off creatives have to make. You're gonna have less space for that if you're doing it 9 to 5. It's just a reality, or at least it is for me.
Yeah. Exactly. So with this poetry retreat that you went to, was that sort of like a way to kind of tap into that, or how did that come
Totally.
about? Okay.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my partner and I both are kind of writers at heart. Don't do that 9 to 5 in a
Mhm.
what you think when I say writers way, but both have a real love for language and words and meaning. And there was this great poetry retreat hosted by a beautiful, lovely man named Padraig Tuma.
I've heard of him.
I'm a fangirl.
That's so cool.
We love him, and he is just as lovely as you think he's going to
Oh
be.
my gosh.
And he hosted this retreat on the Isle of Iona, which is teeny tiny. It's 3 miles high. mile and a half wide, and felt like a good chance for us to just get back to admiring words for being words and to get stuff out without the goal of it being it has to close business or get published or anything like that. So
Yeah.
it was great. I
Oh,
also acknowledge not everybody can do that. I mean, I took 2 weeks off of work, first time in my life I've taken that much time off.
congrats.
Thank you. It was so hard. It was so hard.
I
Had to
bet.
learn how to drive on the left side of the road, had to pay for the retreat. Like, I think there's ways to still nurture your creativity that do not require that kind of investment. But
Mhm.
if you can, it was pretty
Yeah.
great. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. I feel so refreshed and also just not having to be in charge. Since I lead a team doing creative direction, I'm all the time having to make subjective calls and having to push things and edit things and find the problem in it. And so I think it's important as a creator sometimes to surrender that control and get yourself in a room where someone else is pushing you. I
Mhm.
realized I need to do that more.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm kind of obsessed with people who find like containers for why they travel. And it's something I'm challenging myself to do more of too, instead of just like going somewhere just because it's on a bucket list of like, oh, I haven't been to Italy, I should just go because there's nothing wrong with that too.
No.
But I also love when people can find such a niche reason to like find themselves somewhere. So I love that.
Well, this trip that you're asking me about was twofold. It was to get totally out of our own rhythms and explore poetry and words and analysis and all of this with someone else leading. That was part one. And part two was visiting the little village that I grew up in. I had not been back since I was a child. My husband had never
Wow.
been. And so we went
Oh,
back, and that was special to go. And it felt like exploring the essence of who I am in a
oh
way,
my gosh, that's so special.
where I came from and how my creativity is evolving now. It was really special. It was really
Wow, that's so cool. Because so you left when you were 5, did you say?
no, I 5 to 10. I was
Okay.
there. So I left when I was 10, went back once in the sixth grade. Very different to go back as an adult.
Was it like such a deja vu or like what did that feel like?
Yeah, it was weird. I had expected to go back, and this is so thoroughly American of me, to go back and expect things to be different and get this kind of uncanny valley of how different things are. The rest of the world does not throw up and tear down things like the US does.
Yep.
Uh, I grew up in a Victorian spa town. So all the buildings are the same. They've been there since the Victorian era. So it looked exactly the same as I had remembered, of course, on a slightly smaller scale because I was a child.
Mhm.
What surprised me actually was I expected to go back, and I think a lot of third culture kids might feel this way. Like there's somewhere that they romanticize that is not their original culture or their parents' culture. I think I expected to feel whole there. I expected to feel at home in a way that I really struggle to feel at home places.
Mhm.
And it was gorgeous. I mean, I cried. It felt like an exhale having seen it again. And also, I felt so viscerally American in a way that was shocking to me.
Mhm.
It is a huge part of who I am and how I was growing up. And I think I needed to go back. I felt like my husband needed to go to fully understand me. And I realized, oh, like I continue to evolve. And
Yeah.
I was a child here. It's a huge part of me, but I don't feel any more whole here than I feel anywhere else. The unsettled feeling within me, unfortunately, persists,
Right.
regardless of where I am. And that's my work to do, to wrestle with that.
Mhm.
It was surprising to me. I
Mhm.
really thought that I would feel something click.
Mhm.
It was gorgeous. I loved it. I'd go back in a heartbeat. I would live there if I could, but I was still me.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. No, it's like you were saying too, how places rub off on you. And that's like so bittersweet because it's like it's a time capsule in this way of like where you
Yes,
were. And yeah, you've continued to evolve based on where you've lived since. And I
100.
think, yeah, confronting your Americanism too is like, it's hard to not be a little self hating when I go abroad or, like, I don't
Oh,
know.
talk about that. Talk about that. What do you mean?
So I was just watching the Tracy Ellis Ross travel show, and I talked a little bit about it on a recent podcast, and just like her showing up with like so much access in a place and just so much like, I don't know, stuff. And also, I think the thing I don't like about being an American is like the lack of community and community focus. Like it's so individual. And I know that I also lived in New York where it was like hyper focused, where it's like everyone is making their own dreams come true. And it's just like, step aside. I'm the main character here. And I feel like everyone's like that in the city too,
I
and
mean,
or can
Alabama's
be.
waiting for you. If you want a community-oriented place, I'm telling you, it's
Yeah,
waiting. They
totally.
need young people.
Yes.
Yeah, I was worried about this when we were going to the UK, especially with just everything being as polarized as it is right now. I was worried people would make assumptions about me that are maybe not true or maybe are. Like, I think I was just worried that I would lose the opportunity to connect with people when they figured out that I was an American.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no hiding that I am an American, both in accent, in the way I show up. I mean, when we're talking show up with excess, I'm so aware I take up a lot of space in a room. I've always been like that. But I think honestly, to me, it feels like trusting people to hold your own vulnerability. I
Mm-hmm.
think people are really more in tune to our motivations than we give them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone. We all have intuition. It depends how much work you've done to tap into that. But I think people notice when you're approaching from a place of, hey, I am who I am. I'm not going to be able to change that. That doesn't mean that everything I am is healthy. I still have to do my own work.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious in who you are.
Yeah.
And I think it's less about focusing on how you are being perceived, which is actually kind of inherently selfish, I think,
Yeah.
and more on focusing how you are perceiving others.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. When I was really loud and I gave everyone a hug, I noticed that they kind of freezed up. What story are they telling themselves about me? What story am I telling myself? Because clearly we're working with a different set of expectations here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it kind of freed me, at least when I was in the place, to be a little less self-conscious. Like, if they're not going to like me, oh well,
Totally.
just like them
Mm-hmm.
and or not, but I'm gonna try to at least be curious about them and hope that it's met with reciprocal energy. And if it's not, okay, like
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm only here for a short period of time,
Yeah.
both in terms of traveling. I'm only here for a couple weeks, and also living. I'm only
Yeah.
here so long. I'll
Yeah.
find someone else who's willing to reciprocate that energy.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, especially since it's like politically too. I can be like, oh my gosh, our reputation on the world stage is like not the best right now. So, but
Right.
yeah, it's like you can just changing the focus of I want to be a caring person, a caring American to others, and maybe I can be this version, maybe that they've never met before. And
Yes.
because like we're not a monolith, even from north to south or Midwest and all of that.
Taking it as an opportunity to ask questions. I'm
Hmm.
really interested in trying to not ask leading questions, but say, hey, uh, it feels a little weird being in America right now. How are you perceiving what's going on? What are you seeing in your news?
Hmm.
What do you think is similar between what the US is going through right now and what you are going through right now? And a lot of times, if you don't have a leading answer and you go first with vulnerability, people are really interesting and share things that I never would have thought about in a way that actually feels freeing because it helps me to perceive my own situation better, my own life better.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. In the conversation with Sean a few weeks ago, he was just mentioning a couple other countries who also have very problematic political situations too. And so it's like kind of was convicting to me and comforting to be like, we're all fighting like battles in our homes, like whatever they may be.
Oh,
So
yeah. And
yeah,
nobody's perfect. Nobody's
no.
perfect. Everywhere has their own problems.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to work on, I really think essentialism is dangerous and maybe the most dangerous thing happening in the US right now of like, this is good, this is bad, they are good, they are bad. I think that is a surefire way to shoot ourselves in the foot, that we're never going to make
Totally.
it. And so
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to move away from judgment and instead ask, like, how can I co-create the life and community that I want? I actually think folks have an immense amount of agency. Yes, there's structures
Mhm.
and systems that are difficult and we have to work through, and that is not me saying check out, but I actually think for me, if I'm looking at things going, oh, it's so bad, or oh, if only we could do this, it would be good. For me, it just leads to nihilism, and I just want to
Mhm.
check out. So it
Yeah.
feels like an invitation to go, oh, we're screwed. Everything's too far gone.
Yeah.
And that is one thing to tie it back. That is one thing that I think folks from the South are exceptionally good at, that the rest
Wow.
of the country has not practiced that muscle. There is a dominant culture in the South, and I have folks that I love and am in community with who are part of that dominant culture. I would say I don't always agree with that. There's parts I do, there's parts I don't. But being curious and having the resilience takes time to build. And going, okay, maybe this isn't how I would have chosen for things to go, but it is what it is. And I'm still living. How do I take care of my neighbors? How do I do what I can? How do I
Mhm.
put my money towards what I care about? That is something folks from Alabama and folks from the Deep South are so good at, and what I wish the rest of America could learn from them.
Yeah. Wow. Is that just like in a mentality sort of way, or like, is
Yeah.
it in terms of like queerness or racially, or like, is there, yeah, sort of like,
Oh,
do you have,
Autumn. That's another 3 hours if we
okay.
get into that. But the short version, well, I could talk about it, but that's probably another podcast.
For
The
sure.
short version, I think, is really a culture and a heritage of resilience in the shortest way possible.
Sure.
I mean, think about how the South economically was. Look in 1700s, 1800s, even early 20th century. Like this is a land of people who have struggled for the large part. Not all of them, but for
Mhm.
the large part. And you learn it's in your DNA to look at a hard time and go, well, it is what it is. What do I need to do to take care of my community?
Mhm.
So instead of leading towards panic, like that's not an option. That hasn't been an option for generations. There is this kind of like built-in get it done grit that I respect the heck out of. Like you
Mhm.
keep your head down, you work hard, you shamelessly love what you love, you embody the stories that you embody without apologizing for them. And I think there's a certain kind of magic to that and a certain kind of grit that we can really learn from. It's beautiful.
And like keeping that authenticity and being proud of the authenticity
Oh yeah. I mean,
in the
it'll drive you
culture.
crazy if you've
Yes,
got Southern family member. When we disagree, we disagree.
for
But
sure.
it is not, it's hospitality, but it is a culture where people are ready to go first with who they are. That's cool because
Yeah.
that's an invitation, even if you are totally different people, it is an invitation to see someone and to know someone and to love someone and to
Mhm.
have that be reciprocal. I
Yeah.
don't think that's true everywhere. Even in the Midwest, I love the Midwest. I feel mostly Midwestern. People do not go first. People
Right.
hold close who they are and they're nice. In the South, they'll invite you over, they'll feed you a cake, they'll tell you what they think about the president, and they'll give you a Bible all in one
Totally.
go. And you're
Totally.
like, crap, I don't know how to feel about this. This is very confusing. But
Yep.
I think it stretches your muscle and your capacity to not sort into good and bad, to
Hmm.
see the good fruit of a culture and also see, wow, this person has been really shaped by how they grew up, who they are, and what they believe. That's cool. That it's cool to have your capacity be stretched like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So well said. I feel like so inspired to just learn even more about the South. And
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much
Ooh,
for sharing.
absolutely. A last Easter egg for your
Yes.
listeners. When you
Hmm.
think the South, you might think rural. It ain't true. That's not all there is.
Hmm.
Music listeners, check out Muscle Shoals in the north side of Alabama. So much history, so cool. And for everyone, and I will die on this hill, Alabama has the best beaches. The best.
Wow.
Better than
Okay.
Florida, I would say.
Okay. Dare say.
They're not as busy. They're more family oriented. So even if you don't have kids, you can actually take a nap and not be listening to Despacito 27 times. I mean, it's chill. It's a good vibe. Go to an Alabama beach. That is your mission.
Totally. Okay, that's the assignment. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining, Olivia. This has been so fantastic.
Thank you so much, Autumn. You're doing good work here.
Thank you.